Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel. In this week's Sickle Cell Sunday, I'm going to be discussing hydroxyurea. Now, hydroxyurea is a medication used to treat sickle cell disease patients, and some people can think that hydroxyurea is a cure, but it is not a cure for sickle cell patients, unfortunately. I'm basically just going to be talking about my experience, a little bit about the medication, what it does, how it works, any and all information that I know of about hydroxyurea. And again, these are my experiences with hydrea and how my body has responded to hydrea. I'll kind of go into more detail. So if you want to learn about hydroxyurea and sickle cell disease, just keep on watching. Alrighty guys, so I do have some notes right here that I will be referencing because medications have a lot of information and stuff that goes into, that one medication. So I don't want to really miss anything important. So I do have my notes. So if you see me looking down, I'll probably be kind of looking at my notes. Hydroxyurea is also known as hydrea or droxia. There are various names, but they are all the same: hydrea, hydroxyurea, and droxia. They're pretty much all the same name. So hydroxyurea is a chemotherapy agent, and it can treat various types of leukemia, skin cancer, ovarian cancer, head and neck cancer, and obviously it can treat sickle cell disease. Now again, I'm going to stress that hydroxyurea cannot cure sickle cell disease, but it does treat, meaning it could improve our way of life. In most cases, it can improve our way of life. I've even heard that hydroxyurea can increase one's chances in living longer. Not everyone can take this medication because of the side effects, or they may be allergic and stuff like that. So hydroxyurea is a low-level chemotherapy agent. So this is not as, I'm gonna say, harsh as another chemotherapy agent, like a regular chemotherapy drug, but this is a very low-level chemotherapy agent. I don't know if that makes sense, but in all terms, it's not as strong as another chemotherapy drug, but it's more on the lower end. So for example, and I'm gonna put this as an example, hopefully it makes sense, but when you have pain medication, you have Tylenol, and then you have opioids or something much more controlled. And so hydroxyurea could be on this end, whereas another chemotherapy agent or drug may be on the higher side of things. I hope that really makes sense, but I want to get across that regardless, this is still a chemotherapy agent, and it's a very strong and potent drug or medication. So since this is a chemotherapy agent and it is such a strong medication, the doctors and healthcare professionals want to make sure your body is doing well and responding well to the medication. So as a patient, you need to go in every month or about every 2 months and get your blood drawn so they can make sure that your levels are good. This could include keeping an eye on your hemoglobin, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and stuff like that. The hydroxyurea can lower some of your blood levels, such as white blood cells and platelets, so it's very important to keep a very close eye on them. So that's why you have to go in monthly or even every 2 months, depending on how well your body is responding. So the way hydroxyurea works is by it increases our fetal hemoglobin, and that's the most important part of this medication. It also works by making the red blood cells a little more flexible. Like I was saying, the main part of this is raising your fetal hemoglobin. And by raising that fetal hemoglobin, you can decrease the amount of crises a sickle cell patient can have, and the need for blood transfusions, which having too many blood transfusions is not good for our body. Now, the fetal hemoglobin, you have this fetal hemoglobin when you are a baby in your mother's womb, and what happens is that some sickle cell patients, when they are first born, between the first to 6 months of their life, since they do have that fetal hemoglobin, they don't experience as many complications as someone else with sickle cell. So for those first to 6 months of life, a sickle cell patient won't exhibit as much complications as a maybe older sickle cell patient. And that is because the baby has that fetal hemoglobin, which helps them combat any of these sickle cell complications. Again, the higher your fetal hemoglobin goes, the less sickle cell complications you should have, and it could decrease the amount of sickle cells in your body. So with less sickle cells, you're not going to be having a crisis as often. Now, the way I'm describing it right now is all rainbows and flowers is how I say it. You know, now I'm saying all the good stuff about it. But I've had a rough relationship with this medication. So some of the side effects that, you know, this medication can have is vomiting, nausea, you can lose some of your hair, you could have thinning of your hair, you're more prone to infections because of the lower white blood cell count. So if you are on this medication, you pretty much can catch everything: a common cold, a flu, any contagious thing, you know, you'll catch it very quickly because of the lower white blood cell count in our body. It also can cause like bleeding, you know, and you can bruise easily and things like that. I forgot to mention that another side effect or warning that I can give for Hydrea or hydroxyurea is that this medication decreases bone marrow function, an effect that may lead to a low number of blood cells such as red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. This can cause anemia, so that's another side effect is anemia, and decrease your body's ability to fight an infection. This medication can also cause birth defects, so it is important for anyone on this medication to be on some sort of contraception depending on your situation. You know, the research that it's been done, this medication can cause birth defects, so you want to make sure that you are smart about the situation if you are on this medication, and just play it safe. So hopefully I gave you a pretty good understanding of what hydroxyurea is, what it does, how it kind of functions. Again, to kind of make sure that I, you know, hit the right spot, you know, with this information is that hydroxyurea will help a sickle cell patient increase their fetal hemoglobin, which in turn will help them with lower crises and lower hospitalizations, and again, the need for blood transfusions. So now I'm gonna kind of jump into my story, when I started Hydrea, stuff like that, some information on how Hydrea and me have got along, you know, because I did mention we did have a rough relationship. So when I was in my high school years, I was introduced to Hydrea, and I would say I was around maybe 15 or 16 years old. I think it might have been my freshman year of high school. So I was, you know, relatively young, and so my doctor introduced me to this medication because I was just having a lot of sickle cell complications. I had my acute chest syndrome. I had had a stroke in the past. I was in and out of the hospital on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis. Things were really rough, you know, during my teenage years. It was a really difficult, you know, situation, and I was encountering a lot of sickle cell complications. So they introduced to me this medication in hopes of, again, limiting my hospitalizations, lowering any crisis, and increase my fetal hemoglobin so, you know, I can live a healthier life. So when we found out we should be on Hydroxyurea, my mom, she started doing the research. She started Googling, she started reading, she started looking at medical reports, things like that. The doctor gave us a printout of the medication and information on this medication. And I did see that it was a chemotherapy agent. And at that time, I was like freaking out. I thought I was gonna lose my hair. I thought I was gonna lose a lot of things. And, you know, I was just so scared to take the medication that I really was kind of putting it off for a while, until the doctor, you know, finally confronted me and was like, so what's your decision? What are we gonna do? And, you know, we were like, yeah, let's do it, but I'm concerned I'm gonna lose my hair. And she was like, oh, no, you know, you might get a little bit of hair fallout, but nothing too drastic. As you can see, I still have a full head of hair now. I do lose a lot of hair, but you know, humans, we do lose hair on a daily basis. That's the way our bodies work. It's nothing too bad to where like I'm bald or you know, anything severe like a different chemotherapy drug. If I were on a different chemo, I probably wouldn't have this much hair, you know. That was like one of my main concerns. Again, as a teenager, you're in high school, you want to look pretty, you know, you want to feel fine. That was my concern, you know. We started around 15 or 16, and this was like so horrible. It was just such a horrible medication. It really made me feel even more sick. I was having increase in pain. I was throwing up to the point where I couldn't hold anything down. I was having headaches. I was vomiting. Like all the side effects that I listed earlier, I was hitting all of them. And I'm sure if you look up the medication on Google and you look at all the side effects, I was just going through all the side effects. So then the doctor told me to go ahead and take Zofran, which was like a nausea medication to help with that. And not even Zofran was controlling my nausea. I lost a lot of weight because I couldn't hold anything down, and I feel like I got a very picky appetite with the Hydroxyurea. Certain foods and the way certain foods smell, the texture, a lot of that kind of affected what I was able to eat, and my food preferences were changing like drastically. You know, like I said, it was so bad that I had to go and see a GI doctor, which is a gastroenterologist. So again, I had to see this GI doctor just to make sure everything was good, because I was throwing up a lot, and that can hurt your throat, it can hurt your intestine. And they gave me a different medication to help with my nausea, and they gave me omeprazole. Another thing I wanted to mention was that Hydroxyurea did give me a lot of lower back pain, and it was very strange. As soon as I would take a pill, at least within the next hour, I was having a lot of lower back pain, and I felt like someone was just going and stabbing me in the back, in the lower back. And the pain was so bad, I thought it was a sickle cell crisis. And, you know, I told my doctor, you know, every time I take this medication, I get a lot of pain in my lower back. Now, they didn't really want to listen to me, but again, you know, you got to keep telling them and communicating, and they got to figure out whatever they have to figure out. and that could be a side effect. So my pediatrician would look at me like I'm crazy for saying that I have pain in my lower back an hour later after I took this medication. And you know, now that I look at the side effects, it's on there. It's on the list of side effects. You can get pain. Sometimes these doctors make you doubt yourself, but only you know what you feel and you know what your body is telling you. So always be, you know, hypersensitive to what you're feeling and really know your body. With all of the complications that I noticed hydroxyurea was giving me, you know, I got to a point where I told my doctor, I'm not going to take this medication, and I was on and off hydroxyurea because they really pushed that medication on me. I did not want to battle sickle cell disease and then have to battle hydroxyurea at the same time. It's just exhausting. So, you know, we gave it a quits. So around, I believe it was around my first year of college, you know, you always have to transition from a pediatric doctor to a adult hematologist, oncologist, to an adult doctor. The new doctor saw me and he suggested that you should go back on this medication. And I had discussed to him that, you know, I had all these complications, A, B, C, D. So for the nausea, he gave me a different medication to help combat my nausea and the vomiting. And he gave me Ganesentron, and I think it's also known as Chytrol. So this little pill was able to save my life. It really was, you know, what was able to help me keep taking this medication. It really helped me combat my nausea, vomiting, and, you know, as soon as I feel nauseous, I pop one of these in, and within a few minutes, maybe an hour, you know, I wouldn't have like thrown up anything. That made the difference in the world. And till this day, I am still on hydroxyurea, and I have it right here, and I'm still on it. I hope I was able to explain well enough what hydrea is, or hydroxyurea is, its complications, its benefits, how it works, and my story. Thank you so much for watching. Also, please remember to leave me any comments or questions you may have. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And also, please remember to check out my Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and I now have a Twitter, so go check me out on my social media. I'll leave a link down below in the description box. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!